Hello, everyone. We're back, and we're back with Arturo. Arturo, welcome. Arturo,
Thank
as
you.
you all know, is the editorial manager of Be and Live. It's a big title, but basically he's totally responsible for the Be and Live program. He has a great team of editors and authors, and he helps everyone, coaches, including coaches that are working with your schools. So today we're going to be talking about the methodologies, what tools we give teachers to help them be successful in the classroom. So we've talked about the can-dos, which are the framework that helps the teachers know what the objectives are. But then we also provide in the teacher guides and throughout our books, plus our coaching and so forth, methodologies, strategies to manage the learning process. And we'll start with the general ones, just the learning methodology. So Arturo, what can you tell us about that?
Perfect. Thank you, Yola. Thank you. It's great to be back in this session. And yes, indeed, the can-dos is just the one part of a whole program. We cannot have a program if we don't know exactly what we want and how we're going to approach the learning process through the whole program. And that's why we did lots of research, Yola, on different kind of methodologies, and not just ELT methodologies that we will discuss later, but we started first analyzing different methodologies and learning techniques and learning approaches that are in the education world, and basically with the intention of using these methodologies as well to introduce a second language or a foreign language.
Sorry, Arturo.
Yes.
Sorry, Arturo. We had discussed this also, and the importance of also looking at all of this through the eyes of the 21st century competencies, all those goals of the 21st century, those 4 C's, right?
Exactly. Funnily enough, most of these active methodologies now consider the 21st century skills as part of their program or as part of their methodologies, which is really great, because if we want to create students that are not only focusing on their learning, but also on their future, on what's happening around them, we need to bring into a program methodologies that are suitable for them and suitable for what's going to happen in the future. So that's why when we talk about active methodologies, we can think about, for example, phenomenon-based learning, case method, project-based learning, which is a methodology that has been out there for ages and ages, but it has kind of been revamped and reused because of the importance of using projects as part of the learning process. Also, we talk about challenge-based learning or task-based learning as part of it. And there's one we like a lot, and probably you have heard of it, which is inquiry-based learning.
One of the things that you've mentioned all these methodologies or approaches or techniques, and one of the things that I love particularly about the Be and Live, or the way you've organized it, is that a lesson would kind of use one of these. So teachers get to have great practice in using either the case method or project-based, as you said, has been around. So we don't mix it all up, but we use a particular approach depending on the needs, depending on the age, depending on the grade level. And that makes it more interesting for students. It provides a change, and it also allows teachers to become very familiar with them. But yes, inquiry-based learning, everybody's talking about it. We know it works.
Exactly. And something that it was really important, as you said, was that when we are talking about learning, okay, it is not just a linear process. It comes from different parts and from different methodologies, but also each of these methodologies should be used individually, because every single one has different processes that allow the student and the teacher as well to cope with them and to work with them very easily. So that's why we use throughout the program different ones, but we use them depending on the topic that we're going to discuss, depending on the different situation, the lexis, the vocabulary that we want, the language structures and functions. I mean, they were carefully selected to accompany the learning process, not just to embed them and decide how to use them just because we thought so. They are carefully selected.
Mm-hmm. And of course, aside from just the general methodologies for learning, we've also focused very specifically on all the studies that are being done about language acquisition. Which strategies, which methods, which approaches, which techniques do teachers need to have, sort of which tools do they need to have to make sure that language acquisition really happens. And we've moved away from teaching a language to the role of the teacher is to make sure that kids acquire it. It's a fine line.
Exactly.
But we've also done research about that.
Exactly. Krashen, for example, was one of the first ones who mentioned that there's a difference between learning and acquisition. And there's lots of research on this, on how a learner acquires a language, not learns a language. And the main difference of acquiring and learning is the fact that students make it their own. Okay, once the students are able to make language their own, that means that they are acquiring the language. We can provide them lots of different exercises, and they will be probably just learning. But sometimes learning gets up to a point. Okay, when you acquire the language is when you go further in that specific sense. And that's why what we try to do in our program is to use different methodologies, different approaches and techniques in ELT that allow us to make sure that the students are acquiring the language by getting exposure to it constantly, okay? And that's why it is important that also teachers understand that if we want students to acquire the language, they need to expose them to it constantly by reading, by speaking in English, by doing lots of things. Because yes, we do have methodologies that allow that. For example, one that we like a lot is the way we approach language structures and functions. Instead of being explicit in the grammar and telling them this is the rule A plus B plus C equals C or equals C, we provide them a technique which is guided discovery to get students to understand the language and to use it correctly. And from there, we have so many different ones, some of them coming from Krashen, some of them coming from the 80s, from the 90s, some more recent. I mean, we provide different ways of approaching our English program specifically.
Yeah. And that's almost a whole different workshop on all of this. We're just giving you a little taste right now in this interview and showing you this slide so that you know they're out there. And by the way, talking about grammar and talking about language structures and functions, please make sure to check our blog. This week's or next week's blog is exactly about that, is about the difference about teaching grammar and making sure kids acquire the correct use of the language, which is what we want. And those of us who speak many languages know that we don't really have to study grammar in order to speak well or to write well. We need to do a lot of reading and writing, and our program provides that. Arturo, once again, thank you. Thank you for sharing this with us. And I'm sure that teachers are very grateful. Teachers, if you have any more questions or concerns or are not sure about something, there's an incredible team of people behind Be and Live. And we're all here, the coaches and the editors and the different directors and managers who are here to help you understand, help you become more successful in your classrooms, especially during these hard times. So don't hesitate to contact us. We are here to help any one of you, whether you're using Be and Live or not, contact us. Arturo, thank you again. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
You too, Yola.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.